So it's the biggest game that the club have faced in decades. But just days before the fixture, and with Pope's deputy out, having played for Sunday's opponent in this cup, that means Newcastle are left with the man who last time he was in a final had a calamity. Well, there you go. Loris Karius, it seems like, will be in action, probably against the league's most informed striker, Marcus Rashford. A chance to rewrite the story of his career. Martin, what do you make of this? What as a manager is the challenge that faces Eddie Howe as he inserts Loris Karius, of all people, into the biggest game that Newcastle have had in?
Well, he has known now since Pope was sent off what's going to happen. He's going to put him in there, and I think all week he'll just be bolstering his confidence.
How?
How? Well, just relatively simple. Son, please keep the ball out of the net.
Right.
Okay. Yes. How will he bolster his confidence? You'd be telling him, listen, that what happened in the past is gone. You're a professional goalkeeper. You're sound. You're fine. We will try and get even a back pass early on in the game to deal with it, to get something out of your system. Don't worry too much about it. It's at Wembley. Listen, all the things that you might want to say to the goalkeeper, you might never actually get through to him. He might still have demons to worry about. But overall, I think it'll be the whole week will be really bolstering him, telling him he's absolutely fine.
Okay.
I don't think you can do anything else other than that.
No, absolutely.
But do you think it was a mistake for Eddie Howe, knowing that Dubravka was cup tied? He could have rested Pope against Liverpool because it was a risk.
No, I don't think so. I don't. First of all, Newcastle are talking about a back four. Back four. They're talking about getting into the top four. So no, the league game is so important. You have to try and get something against Liverpool in that match to keep yourself going. So not at all. I wouldn't have. I'm sure that in terms of circumstances, he would never have thought that Pope would ever have, unless he'd picked up an injury or something that gets here. He's going to be available the following week to play in the cup final. He's been fantastic as well too. But overall, no, that would never have entered his head.
Even with Pope, would Man United be heavy favourites for this game, do you think?
I think particularly the form, as you said, Marcus Rashford is at the moment. I mean, it's quite a nice final in that both teams really, really want to win it, which sounds like an obvious point, but I think Man City have won 5 out of the last 7, and they sort of, it's always nice to have another one, but you don't think they're that bothered. Whereas Man United haven't won a trophy since 2017, which for them is a long time. Newcastle not since the 50s for a domestic cup.
Right.
So,
a time-travelling Duncan Alexander went back to revisit the 1955 FA Cup final.
Yes.
What strange similarities did you find?
Well, it's funny because obviously it's in black and white, and it does look a bit grainy.
Newcastle always.
Very good. They played Man City. They won 3-1. Jackie Milburn scored after 45 seconds, which was the fastest goal in a cup final for a long
Jackie.
time.
What is he good for?
Yeah, exactly. But I think a couple of things stood out. City's fullback Jimmy Meadows did his cruciate knee ligament, or what it looked like, after about 20 minutes. Not only did he have to go off the pitch and no subs in those days, but he never played football ever again. Wow. Which I think is the harsh reality of football in the 50s. But actually what stood out was just how tactically adept both teams were. Obviously it was a couple of years after England had lost to Hungary at Wembley. City actually had Don Revie playing as a withdrawn forward, like a false 9, and he was. I only knew Don Revie as the Leeds manager in the 70s, from seeing his conversations with Brian Clough. But he was brilliant. His passing range was tremendous, and it was actually the more I watched it, and I had to re-watch quite a lot of bits for the article, but I got more and more into the game, and there wasn't that much different. I mean, the biggest difference is obviously fitness levels. That both teams tailed off massively in the second half, and there wasn't much pressing. But in terms of skill and tactical awareness, I think it was really good.
This is 1955.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So you're telling me, so there was a player injured in the game. So does that mean they were down to 10 men the whole time?
And I think City would have won that game. Yeah. They won the cup the following year.
He should have played on like Bert Troutman did.
Well, yeah, the following year Bert Troutman did do the end of the game with a broken neck, which is hard to run off at the best of times. But yeah, this poor guy, Jimmy Meadows, he basically made his England debut the previous month, and he looked like he had his career ahead of him. And Yeah.
And then fast forward a couple of years, and I know I'm digressing here, but 1959, Nottingham Forest, Dwight gets injured, who is Elton John's uncle.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Reggie Dwight's uncle.
Yeah.
Oh,
He was the player who played for Nottingham Forest, got injured in the game.
huh.
Yeah.
Good Lord. No, I'm too young.
You are, James, right?
Yeah.
I hope I've got that right.
No, you're right. You're totally right. And
absolutely.
And again, just a bit of an offshoot, but Elton John, a massive football fan, not to the just liking football and being the Watford owner, but like he says in his book that if he hadn't been a singer, he'd have probably been like a football statistician because he's that obsessed with the minutiae.
You made that
of the
up,
game.
Duncan Alexander.
Nope.
No,
Me and Elton
that's
John are very similar.
It would only take a nudge to push him over to the dark
Get
side.
him a column.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think you also Manchester United are playing tonight as well too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so they might pick up an injury or two.
Very true.
At least Newcastle have had the whole week to think about it. So there's a tough enough game against Barcelona this evening as well.
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
So they will have to go quite strong again.
That's a very good point you make, Martin. The 1955 FA Cup win, was that their last trophy domestically?
Domestically, they won the Fairs Cup in the 70s,
69.
but
Right.
well, yeah,
69.
69, yeah. But that was their third FA Cup in 4 or 5 years,
yeah,
and
that's right.
that's the thing with being a football fan. I mean, in fact, Martin, you say in your book, actually, you said Nottingham Forest will have new heroes to cheer until they too become expendable. That's the game and that's life, which I thought was a really nice line. But also, football fans never know when the success is going to stop.
No.
Like you go to a Sheffield United fan in 1899 and when they just won the league, they'll be like, we'll probably win 3 of the next 10. They've never won it since.
Yes,
so you
it
never know when it's going to stop. And the same with Newcastle. So.
Yeah. And,
Or when it'll start, I guess.
Well, yeah.
Inversely. The romance of this League Cup final, Saudi against Qatar.
Yeah. Well, so Nick Miller wrote an interesting thing about this, which is that you've got these two owners, and one of whom is loved and one of whom is despised. And
Right.
the loved one is the owners around some very serious human rights concerns. The Public Investment Fund linked to the Saudi state. You've now got the weird situation where Manchester United fans, they have these two potential new owners, either Sir Jim Ratcliffe for the Ineos Chemicals Company or a Qatari called Sheikh Jassim, who no one had heard of 2 weeks ago. And then it's this whole question of, is it linked to the state or is it not? And, football fans are now forced to wrestle with these complex moral dilemmas. I mean, I think when it comes to this whole topic, you've got, human rights concerns, which can sometimes feel like a bit of an abstract thing. I think the more direct thing is that it's part of the state propaganda, clearly. I mean, this is the Saudi state, they put the away shirt into the colours of the Saudi flag. I think it's impossible not to think Manchester United would become something similar with the state of Qatar eventually.
All right. Joey, what is the latest on the bids that were submitted for Manchester United and whether the Glazers are actually selling?
So those two bids were submitted at 10 p.m. on Friday night, and now we're just waiting on the Glazers. I mean, there's been rumours since that the Glazers might just hang on because they wanted 6 billion and they only were offered 5 or something. I mean, we don't know all the details just yet, but it seems now a very live possibility that the Glazers won't sell, or certainly not now, or certainly not a majority stake.
Okay.
There was talk about the Qatari bid being well short of what the Glazers were looking for.
Yeah.
Really well short.
Yeah. Well, what do you make of that whole question? It's very interesting among Manchester United fans now, almost on social media, the caring so much about the ownership and the back and forth. I mean, did you ever experience these sorts of things?
No. Well, if you think that you could have bought Manchester United for £10 million away back in 1987. I think
Good Lord.
Seriously. Was it... yeah.
Michael Knighton.
Michael Knighton. Well done, Duncan. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
And paraded himself around the field as well, too, tapping the ball up in his foot. And had he had the money...
Had he had £10 million?
Absolutely.
Exactly. Well, that's puts it in perspective.
Duncan, please tell me I'm right around about the fee was very, very...
Yeah, well, I think you're right, but I think you're bang on. It was that, and yeah, I remember in front of the Stretford end, bouncing the ball off his head. You don't get enough potential owners doing that.
The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around, and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.